welcome to the second episode of my script tutorial series. So, I know it's been a while, but I'm back now. Today in this episode, we are going to talk about events and variables. So, let's start off with events. Okay, so I am here in my Minehut server special box. It is actually a server, it's still not done. And I'm in the script folder, which I can access by using the file manager and going to plugins and then to the script plugin. And now I'm going to make a new script and call it tutorial.sk. Okay, so you can name this file whatever you want. I just decided to name it tutorial.sk. And you do need the .sk for it to actually be recognized as a script plugin. So now we're going to start with events. Okay, so events are basically players doing stuff such as player breaking the block, player getting damaged, a player dying, or maybe even stuff such as while a player is online, that's also sort of counted as an event. And there are a lot of events in Skript. And we are going to talk mostly about the basic ones today, such as on break, on damage, and other stuff like that. Okay, so I'm back here on our tutorial.sk file, and I'm going to write a simple event which is on break. Okay, so we don't even need to specify the block, but if we do want to, then we can say something such as on break of grass block. Okay, so that will still work. And now let's say send quote you broke grass. Okay, now we don't need to say that it will send it to the player because there isn't any other player or entity in that event. So now all we need to do is to write sk reload and then the name of our file, for me it will be tutorial. And now if I were to break this grass block, then it will say you broke grass, which is pretty cool. So now let's go ahead and write something a little bit more complicated. Send. Okay, so we're going to use a event item or an event object, I'm going to call that, which is basically stuff such as if we are to do here the on break thingy, then if we send here you broke and then we use percentage signs, then we can just go ahead and use a grass block. No. Okay, so now here we can just write in this percentage signs, we can write event dash block, which will give us the event block. So the event block is a grass block, right? Because we are saying on break of block. Now if we are to just make this be on break of anything, so we just don't write the off, we just write on break, and then the block that we broke will be the event block. So now let's go ahead and reload this. Okay, so Skript has changed quite a few from the last tutorial, but that's not really a problem because well, they're mostly minuscule changes. But basically now if you break if you break a block, then it will say you broke and then a lot of other stuff that you don't really need, but it's pretty good because like now you can actually see what the player gets, what Skript gets from the breaking of any block. So as you can see, you broke stone block at this location and even in the world of worlds. So now let's actually do a few more stuff. So now we are going to go a little bit into, so now let's do this exact same thing, but do it with on place. Now on place works exactly like on break, it just has it just on the place of a block and not on the break of one. So now it will tell me that. Of course, I did actually write place and not placed, but that doesn't really matter. Now we're going to a few more complicated things, such as on right click, which are much more powerful and more advanced than the other ones, because if I were to click on this block, then it will say you clicked on, you placed actually, because I didn't change it. Like to just say what I right clicked on. But Skript does have this pretty smart thingy, that because we tell it to send the player a message with the event block and not stuff like clicked block, then if you were to just right click on the air, then nothing would happen. Now on right click and on left click, which work basically the same. On left click, it just, when you left click on something. And we also have, I think we also have on middle click, right? Does that exist? Let me just check. No. Okay, so on right click and on left click are very, very useful in scripts, but they are also pretty much the same. It's like on break and on place. On left click, it's just basically finding a left click. They're the same. Though there isn't a on middle click, that just doesn't work. It will give you this error, which it doesn't understand that. So that's all of the click events. Now there are a few more complicated ones, such as on def, which I pretty much which basically means that on def, then so if I were to do /kill myself here, then you can see it just said you place none, which of course that makes sense because we're using event block, and how the heck is that going to work in the on def event? So yep, so that's that. Now we can actually do a few more stuff with events. So there are quite a lot more events that are just useful, such as on kill or on damage. They're all very useful, but I'm not gonna talk about them today. So now so if you do want to see a full list of them, you can go to the website SKUnity or go to the link down below. And now we're going to move on to variables. Now, okay, so let's go and do a on break event. So basically every time the player breaks a block. And now we have that, so we have on break here. Okay, so let's use a simple on break event, which basically means when the player breaks a block, then this event will happen. Now we want to add 1, 2, and now, okay, so variables have two different states. They have a state where they are subjected to the player, and they have another state where the subject is just general. So basically all the server shares the exact same event, this exact same variable for that. So let's just go ahead and add one to, let's say, blocks broken. And now I want this to be for the player, so let's go and we need to do 2 columns and then 2 percentage signs. And in those 2 percentage signs, you can either write player, or you can also write UUID of player. And UUID of player is what I always use, because if you do use player, then if the player changes his name, then basically then he's lost all of that variable. But if you use UUID of player, then it will be attached to the UUID of that player. And the UUID does not change if the if the name changes. Okay, so now this will basically add 1 to this variable. So let's also add a simple command and we'll do command slash blocks broken, and we'll also add a argument, which I will make it be player, and do this. Okay, so let's not add a permission because we don't really need it, and now let's do trigger. So we're going to do a few ifs and elses. Okay, so if arg-1 is set, or you can also use just the word arg, which stands for argument. Uh, so if the argument is set, which is the argument is player, so basically if the command that was, so basically if the player that wrote the command also stated a player, then we would like to do a simple thing. We want to send quote, and then let's do argument has broken, and now we need to take this variable, place it right here, and do UID of arg. Okay, so basically now this will just send the player. Okay, so the argument or the player that they wrote has broken, and then the amount of blocks broken by that player. Now if you write else here, then send quote, you have broken, and then we need those, and then we just do that. But we also don't want to forget to do percentage signs on both sides of this, so that it will just be actually sending that and not just sending, the you just sending this, so it will just send this in text form and not like actually as the variable amount. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a simple remount, and we have forgotten a okay, and I have miswrote trigger, so let's fix that, and that works. Okay, so let's just break this leaf 3 times, I guess, and now let's do slash blocks broken. That's all we need to do, and now it will tell me you have broken 3 blocks. Now because there aren't any other players, let's just write my own name, and it will say Creeper Offer has broken 3 blocks. Actually it doesn't say the word blocks because I forgot to add that. But yeah, this all works very well. But now let's say we want to also count how many blocks has the entire server broken. So on break you want to add 1 to blocks broken, then you want to just remove all of these parts, so it will just say blocks broken. This still does work as a variable, it's just not subjective to any player or any list. That's that. Okay, so let's make another, so now here let's make another comment. So comment slash blocks broken by all, let's write trigger, and then let's send quote all the players have broken, and then let's add percentage signs and just write blocks broken, and that should all work. So let's just test that. Go ahead and do sk reload and break 3 blocks and see, go to blocks broken by all, and all the players have broken 3 blocks. Now I can't really test this with anyone else because again I am the only one on this server right now because it still isn't open to the public. But yeah, this is a pretty simple thingy to do with variables and also events. But as you can see, if I were to do also again my just write blocks broken, then you can see me breaking an extra 3 blocks added here. So I can just continue to do this, and it will continue to add stuff. Now believe me when I tell you this, variables are basically the most useful thing you can use on your scripts and your servers. Because, well, you see, almost everything that I can make just uses that. So if I were to just look at my a little bit more complicated stuff, like let's go into... Okay, so this is a very old one that doesn't actually work anymore, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, you can see the amount of times I just use variables here is very big. Like I use a lot of variables in this one. Like look at how many variables I use here in this script. There's just a trillion variables. And of course this is a very complicated script, and it's not on a easy level. It took me like 1 to 2 weeks to code, but that doesn't really matter. Though they don't always get used. Like in this item command, it's very simple. We really just have a lot of... We really just use a lot of comments and arguments. That's not really anything. So yeah, that's that. And now let's just go ahead and do something a little bit more complicated than this. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and make a playtime command, a playtime script. So let's do a onJoin event, which basically means when the player joins the server, then this event will trigger, and do a while player is online. So basically, until the player has logged off, then do this thingy. We want to add 1 to second 2, and now we want to create a variable, name it seconds of UUID of player, which is pretty simple. Okay, so we just add 1 to that, and then it will wait 1 second. Now we should probably also add a few more things such as minutes and hours and also even days. So if, and then you want to copy the seconds of player, is 60 is 16 or higher, actually sorry, is 59 or higher, no 60 is 60 or higher, then you want to set seconds to 0. So basically this will just make the seconds of UID of player to be 0. And we also want to add 1 to, and then write here minutes. Okay, so it will add 1 to the minutes of the player. Now we want to copy this whole entire thingy, but just use minutes and hours this time. So place the seconds with minutes and the minutes with hours. With hours. Okay, so that's that. And now let's do that with also with... Okay, so now let's do that with days, which is a little bit harder because this one actually needs to say 23, and then again just copy the hours, paste them here, and then days. Okay, so that's that. So now let's go ahead and do a comment to show all of this. So comment/playtime, and again I would like to add the player variable, sorry, that's not how you write that. The player argument here, so that you can also see other players as playtime. So then you want to add a trigger, and then you want to send a little bit of a long command, which will be send what. Let's just do some simple messaging. I'll do that and then I'll come back to you guys. Okay, so I got the basic messaging in and also the variables in, And it's basically just like the blocks broken thingy, just a little bit more message. Okay, so I had a little problem in a script where I just wrote here, oh hi, we don't actually need that. It just gives you errors because again, as I've said, Skript have changed a lot of the basic code, so it is a little weird, but yeah, so I fixed that. So now let's go ahead and do slash playtime. Now, when you are testing stuff with on joins, then you do need to rejoin. So let's just rejoin very quick. And now, if I want to do slash playtime again, then you can see that I already have 7 seconds, and it does update. Now, if you are to wait a little while, then you can see that we also have minutes. So, but well, meanwhile, let's just add a simple thingy. Let's add a kill counter. While we wait for this time to happen, let's add a kill counter. So on def. Okay, so on def. Actually, let's do this. On def of player. Then you want to see who the victim is. So to the victim, we want to add 1, 2, and then let's make this be def. And then you want to do UUID of victim, which is basically the one who was killed. You do have to only use victim or attacker in these events because I don't know, Skript wanted to be weird. So now let's also add 1 to kills of UUID of attacker. And yeah, so the attacker is again the player who actually killed the other player. So let's also just send, and now let's also set the def message to. Okay, so now let's also, let's set the def message to, and then to, let's say, and okay, so let's say to victim in percentage signs was let's say was murdered by and then let's add the attacker, so attacker here. So this will not only give us a special death message, but it will also add to the kills and the deaths of the player. So let's see if that will all work. And we don't get any errors, but I actually cannot check if this works because again I'm alone here. So let's also add a kill, two comments, which will be comment slash deaths. Actually, we can actually do, yeah, okay, no. Let's do comment slash deaths, which again will just have a trigger to do send quote. For now, I'm just gonna do you have died, and let's just add this in, so to percentage signs and deaths of UUID of player. So we're gonna not even like show deaths of other players for now because this is like a really simple comment that I just don't wanna work on for so many times. Killed, and now let's just also do copywriting in here, so times and then players in here. So now let's make this be kill. Okay, so let's just make this comment be that. Okay, so now let's reload this. And now if I want to do slash death, then it would say that I've done 0 times. Let's change that by, not by drowning because that is way too slow, but by falling off a very large area. Okay, so now let's also look at our slash playtime, and we can see it's been going already, and we have already played for 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So, I've been Adam, this has been my second Skript tutorial, and I'm out. I'll see you later.